On a morning in May 20XX, Mari Asaka rushed on her way, bumping into a man, but quickly apologizing as she continued to run. She glanced back, noticing a beast folk. She's seen them more often than before, but couldn't think about it long. She was going to be late for school. In the classroom, her teacher announced that this year, Yotsunoha High would be welcoming special status students. These special status students are participating in one of the educational programs for beast folk. Beast folk are a rare species that were born due to experiments long ago, and are all located and monitored in a single location in Saitama Prefecture. There are approximately 3,000 of them, and beyond their walls, they live similar lives to humans. Many of them visit the human side, so special status was granted to students to help teach them about human society. One of the students raised their hand, commenting she heard beast folk were pretty violent, and the students clamored with a bit of fear and confusion. However, the teacher assured them the only beast folk allowed to attend here as of May has been extensively screened by the government. Outside, Mari was relieved to have made it. Or not, the school gates were already closed. She tried going around and spotted a tall student behind the corner. Turns out, he got lost and had to watch the gate close on him. That was fine, because Mari had done this before. She threw her backpack over the wall and began her climb over. And standing on top, she offered her hand so they could climb together. Not expecting him to be such a beautiful beast person, it was like time was still in this moment. So you can hype up this video and subscribe to my channel, because here at my Shoujo Weekly, I'll cover furry romance too, even though I don't like it. Looking for other types of romance that cover everyday living? Check out my romance slice of life playlist. You'll find plenty there. Already watched them all and are looking for something different? You can come hang out with me on my live stream channel, youtube.com/ComfyTea live. I always cover the latest games and talk about random drama. So come on, hang out with me and subscribe for the tea. Taking her hand and jumping up beside, Tsunagu Hidaka thanked her for helping him make up his mind. Mari began sweating. Her heart was beating rapidly. She'd never met a beast person before. His hand felt cold. He assumed she couldn't get down, so he gently grabbed her, saying she was so light, and just as quickly left her behind. Getting greeted by her friends in class, Mari was overwhelmed by her entire reaction with Tsunagu. The teacher came back with him, and everyone settled down. Turns out, Tsunagu was a new student in classroom 1-3, the same as Mari's. But we knew that was going to happen, didn't we? Most of the students spoke dissent in hushed whispers, and both Tsunagu and Mari were surprised they'd be sitting next to each other. The teacher went on to say Tsunagu was a 16-year-old high school student, just like the rest of them, and to make sure they all got along. At the bell, the other classmates continued to converse about Tsunagu. Things like, his voice was so deep. Dude, his face is literally a dog's. And classmates outside were all trying to snap a pic. Mari felt anxious because they were all talking about him so loudly. Then, another classmate came up to Tsunagu to ask if dog beast folk were mostly dog and wanted to know if he could actually talk to dogs. Mari was startled. Tsunagu started to growl. The classmate was clearly mocking Tsunagu, since beast folk were people too. Their ancestors might have mixed with dogs, but it wasn't exactly the same. The student would get a chop behind the head from Yukihiro Aida, who told him he was being rude and to have some class. Then hit him with, dude, you look like a monkey. Would you like it if you got asked if you could talk to monkeys? The student apologized, and Tsunagu responded it was fine, and that he'd actually never seen a dog, but if he did meet one, he'd see if he could talk to it. Aida thought he was being way too chill, but Tsunagu would retreat back to his studies. His personality seemed very aloof and low emotion. Getting pulled away from her friends, Mari noted despite Tsunagu's outstanding appearance, he was quieter than anyone as he studied. She couldn't help but be curious, sitting near him the whole day. Up until now, her life had been pretty normal. She'd go to school, make new friends, take walks on her days off, but now her view of what's normal was starting to fill with different things. She wondered if she'd be able to talk to him tomorrow, but she wouldn't have to wait. Two guys were standing in Tsunagu's way, blocking his path, calling him scary, huge, and annoying. Still, Tsunagu was polite, apologizing, saying he'd like to go home, and telling them to please let him through. They only continued to mock him, saying he wouldn't understand human words anyway, since he was a dog. Mari was about to help, and now the guys were getting scared he was going to get violent with him reaching forward. But it was actually to hop on the railing beside them. Tsunagu would go eyes wide seeing Mari, and caught off guard, he'd accidentally fall into the water. She ran after him, thinking this was definitely her fault, and seeing no sign of him, she wondered if Beastfolk couldn't swim. So, she jumped in, diving after him, but he was already swimming back up. When she explained she was trying to save him, he told her not to do it again because it was dangerous. They went back and forth, and he dismissed all her worries. But even so, she wanted to thank him for saving her just now, and for also helping her down this morning. She'd suddenly stop, seeing his tail wag, so much he had to stop it with his hand. Apparently, this was the first time a human thanked him for anything. He was now flush, thanking her for worrying about him, too. We then learned he didn't do anything about those guys from earlier because if his rage got the better of him, they'd just treat him even more like some monster. Wanting to remain a person, he's accepted what's normal to those around him. Mari brought him home, much to her mother's surprise. Since they were both soaked from the river, the mother welcomed him in anyways, saying the river was filthy, and it was better they dry off. Now meeting a dog for the first time, Yuki, the dog that belonged to Marie's family, Tsunagu understood quickly he couldn't understand the dog's yips and yaps. Seeing how playful Tsunagu was with her dog, Mari thought of him as just a nice boy who was much more sensitive about what's normal compared to others. With him about to take a shower, she wanted to take his shirt to dry and was surprised watching him strip. Putting the laundry in, she looked back, observing his whole body covered in fur, and his abs were ripped. She was amazed at how big his body was, but had to stop herself because her mind was getting too pervy. The detergent up on the shelf was a little too high for her, so Tsunagu helped grab it with ease. His fur resting on the back of her head tickled her a bit, so with her turning abruptly, his nose touched hers, and they both backed away. Standing outside, back against the door, she touched her nose. While inside the shower, he touched his, thinking about how she smelled sweet. So sweet, it went straight to the pit of his stomach. He's never smelled anything like this before. They both wondered why their hearts were pounding like this. They'd never felt this way before. Heading out to school another morning, Tsunagu's friends came to check on him, wanting to make sure he wasn't being bullied. He assured them everything was fine, but they were still worried, praying he'd meet a kind human. He shouted that they were so annoying, and that his mind was made up to deal with this for the next 3 years. He didn't want to be babied. Reaching the wall, he showed his permit. That way, he could begin another day at school. During PE, he dunked a basketball with a lot of finesse. The girls now assumed Beastfolk must be crazy athletic. Aida told him he should join the basketball club, but unfortunately, Beastfolk weren't allowed in clubs. Mari kept staring. She wanted to keep watching and knew she was being weird. She was practically burning up seeing his abs. Her friends poked her, pointing out she'd been watching him this whole time. They wondered if she was curious, but she assured them she wasn't. Still, they teased they'd get more details for her later. The male classmates on the team that opposed Tsunagu were not happy. They called it unfair. They didn't want to let him play. They didn't want to look at him. While the rest of the classmates went on ahead, it was just Tsunagu and Mari doing cleanup. They made small talk in the storage closet, where she complimented how cool he looked, scoring all those points. He seemed really shy, replying he was good at physical stuff, and she gushed over how embarrassed he was. Seeing his ears moving, she thought it was so cute. She wanted to talk to him even more. However, they'd be the subject of bullying, with someone behind her knocking things over and locking them in the closet. A male classmate kicked at the door, telling Beast Guy to stay in there forever. Aida noticed Tsunagu was late coming back, and overheard his classmates talking about how they trapped him with a sacrifice, and that they were going to throw away his textbooks later. In the storage room, Tsunagu kept Mari covered. His hand was hurt, but he was fine as long as she was. She quickly pulled out a rag she had in her pocket, and as she tended to his hand, he apologized for dragging her into this. But she of course didn't blame him. She blamed the guys who trapped them. She again noticed his hand was cold, and he told her it was usually warm, probably only cold here at school because he was nervous. Since the rag was a bit loose, he rewrapped it himself and explained Beastfolk City didn't have any hospitals or doctors, so they had to treat everything themselves. They'd only receive treatment in hospitals outside if they got really sick. That's why he wanted to hurry up and become a doctor and build a place in their city that could at least treat minor cases. He finally got an opportunity to study by becoming a special status student, but now figured a human school wasn't going to let him learn in peace. He was trying not to hurt anyone, no matter what's done to him, but people just kept trying his patience. He just didn't have time for that. Staring at him, Mari thought about how spending time at school was so ordinary for most, but for a beast person like Tsunagu, it must be very important. She wished they wouldn't try to entrap him or get in the way of his cherished dream. She grabbed his hands, telling him if he was always anxious, he might get tired, and that would affect his studies. She was trying her best right now to help warm his hands, because she was his friend. Realizing the embarrassing statement she made, she stumbled back and almost hit her head, but he barely saved her. In his arms, she really felt his fluffiness. He asked her if she was sure she wanted to be friends. He was a beast person, after all. And with her replying yes, he turned his head away, uttering, that made him happy. For her, it felt like she was able to knock lightly on the small door of the heart that lay within his giant body. That made her happy too. Something suddenly awakened inside of him. He felt compelled to smell the really sweet scent that emitted from Mari. The more he smelled it, the more his feelings calmed down. He started to snarl and then licked her neck. He held her down and uttered her name before licking her more. She couldn't understand why this was happening so suddenly, but he was so strong, she couldn't resist. He was going to eat her. Ida knocked on the storage room, calling out to Tsunagu. He was having a hard time removing the stick that was used to block the door. Tsunagu quickly got off Mari, letting Ida know he was there. Both were panting hard and staring at each other. He bit down on his arm hard while trying to calm himself. Mari tried to stop him, but he yelled at her not to come any closer. He was ashamed of himself for scaring her. As Ida got the door open, Tsunagu quickly left. Mari was really scared, thinking about how he acted like a beast, but she was conflicted. Between his body heat as he leaned over her and the feeling of his tongue, she didn't hate either in the slightest. Sitting alone, Tsunagu couldn't forget her sweet scent. It was so strong that he didn't even know what was going on. He went into a rut over Mari, and that led him to having pleasure that was forced on him so strongly. He was scared of having feelings like this, but felt more guilty about Mari being hurt emotionally. On her way back to class, Ida asked Mari if Tsunagu had done something to her. He didn't see him as a bad guy, but considering they were in a closed room and guys tend to be stronger, he wanted to know. Mari told him that her heart was racing. Her mind and body were a mess back then. Seeing how Tsunagu was, she couldn't speak for him. All she could put into words right now were her feelings. So, she asked if it was weird to have one's heart stolen by a beastfolk boy and lose yourself. Ida seemed quite surprised, but didn't think it was weird. He apologized for making her reveal her precious feelings, but she appreciated him worrying about her. Seeing the bullies who were messing up Tsunagu's textbooks, Ida leaped through the window to confront them. They thought he wanted to join them. However, he demanded they apologize for locking Tsunagu in the storage shed. The leader, Yusuke, didn't get why he was taking the beastfolk's side. He claimed Tsunagu had disrupted the power balance of their class, all because he had the same intellect as a human and his athleticism was top-notch. Bro is just jealous that someone better than him came along. Ida felt he understood what he was trying to say. A beast person who's lived a completely different life shows up, and their world suddenly changes. To him, though, it sounded like a lot of fun. Mari saw that Ida felt the same way as she did. Her view of what was normal was starting to fill with different things. She was weirdly elated as she felt herself changing. However, Yusuke told Ida he'd get eaten if he kept acting like that. He felt Tsunagu would see how feeble they were and corner them. Believing they needed to get rid of him, Yusuke tossed the textbook away, but Mari would rush, catching it before it flew over the wall. Ida stopped the next person who tried to throw a book, but Yusuke picked up another, throwing it at Mari. Luckily, Tsunagu caught it just in time. After making sure she was fine, he'd confront Yusuke, growling aggressively. But Yusuke taunted him, telling him to use his words. Tsunagu shot back, saying he shouldn't blame beastfolk for his own weakness. Defeated, Yusuke would then leave with the other bullies, claiming he was bored. Tsunagu hit the bullseye on Yusuke's insecurities. Ida then teased Tsunagu for getting angry, but he blamed it on them for putting themselves in danger. He could just buy another textbook, so he didn't see any reason for them to get hurt. He asked them to stop defending him when he wasn't around. Mari then handed back his textbooks, feeling glad that she was able to protect something precious filled with his future. She was also glad to be able to do something other than warming his hands. Tsunagu was flush as he collected the textbooks. Ida then promised to always help him out, even if he wanted to spend the next 3 years quietly. He wanted to try having a fun-filled school life with him. Tsunagu would lift him onto his back, with his tail wagging happily. He teased Ida for acting cool when he was scrawny as a stick. Ida argued that he was quite ripped, but got distracted by Tsunagu's fluffy fur. Marie was so jealous that he got to touch the floof. Tsunagu didn't need them saying they were happy or they would help him, like it was a normal thing. But with the way humans think, he liked what they considered normal the best. Ida then suddenly got the idea to let everyone know that Tsunagu was harmless. With that, they'd have less naysayers and be able to have a fun-filled school life. Mari thought he was a genius, and their sparkling eyes stared at Tsunagu, giving him no other choice than to agree with them. However, he couldn't let Mari join them for their strategy meeting. Looking at the bite he gave himself, he told Ida there was a reason he couldn't be around her. In class, Ida tossed Mari a paper, telling her to come to his place after school. She felt sad seeing Tsunagu's wound. After he finally decided to try and fit in with the class, she couldn't believe she wouldn't be around him. She wondered if there was a huge wall between them now. At Ida's place, his siblings were peeking at Tsunagu, but Ida would scare them and shoo them off. Then, he asked Tsunagu to explain why he didn't want Mari around. Tsunagu spoke about the forbidden moon. It was a term for beast folk mating season, which started around March or April, and was the reason beast folk started school in May. The symptoms were like fatigue that you'd feel from a cold, and instinctive impulses. The medicine given to mitigate the symptoms wasn't a cure at all. The beast folk had to deal with it all their lives. Ida didn't think it was complicated, reasoning that his desires would take over, and there was no guarantee he wouldn't assault someone. He suspected that's what happened between Tsunagu and Mari, but Tsunagu quickly responded that it didn't happen to him, and that there's never been anything like that before. He was conceived by a beast folk and a human, so his traits as a beast were milder. Ida had heard that beast folk and humans hadn't successfully mixed, but Tsunagu shushed him. Tsunagu would then talk about how he pushed Mari into the storage shed and wanted to do more to her. Even though he wasn't affected by the forbidden moon, he lost control when he was affected by the sweet scent of someone he was compatible with. He had no immunity to the smell and didn't know how to hold himself back. He felt ashamed. He didn't want to hurt his friend because of his pathetic impulse. On the other hand, Mari was happy to hear that they were compatible, especially with Tsunagu being born from a human and beast. Although it troubled him, she didn't feel ready to accept it and leave. Out of nowhere, Ida just left the room, leaving them to reenact what happened in the storage shed. Tsunagu tried to open the door, but Ida locked it from the outside. Mari didn't want him to back away so quickly, saying they didn't know yet if it was dangerous after just one time. She wanted to know how much they could be in contact and what crossed the line. After they thought about it together, Tsunagu could then decide if he wanted to stay away from her. He pinned her to the door, explaining that if he bit and crushed her, it's her heart that would get hurt. He expected her to be more afraid, but Mari didn't give up that easily. Tsunagu asked Ida to come stop him if he heard him growl. Afterwards, he and Mari started off with a handshake. After playing with her hands, he became okay with her scent, then moved to rub her head. Mari wondered if it was inappropriate to feel her heart racing when he was touching her like this in this situation. Tsunagu thought she was so small and soft. He couldn't calm down, hoping he was touching her gently enough so she wouldn't break. She would nervously ask to touch him as well, and the way she played with his fur tickled him a bit. Her sweet scent made him pull back, but it hadn't started affecting him. She wondered what triggered his impulses, and if they figured it out, would they be able to find a way to deal with it? Tsunagu suddenly touched her neck, causing her to squeal. She was fine, only just startled. Feeling his warm hands, she wondered if her warmth transferred to him. He was petting her head gently, and it felt nice. That was until Tsunagu suddenly felt something off. He gave her a warm hug, complimenting how cute she was. Mari loved him, but her sweet scent would overwhelm him, causing him to growl. As he pushed her to the bed, Tsunagu struggled to control himself. But Mari didn't understand why this was happening so suddenly. Ida tried opening the door to help her, but his brothers held him back. Meanwhile, Mari felt being drawn to Tsunagu was what triggered his impulses. He started nibbling on her thighs, making her wonder if she sweetly led him on. Her scent slowly became sweeter and sweeter, and before he knew it, he lost control. He was hurting her, but he wanted her more and couldn't hold back. Mari felt guilty, but if this kept on, they would get nowhere. So she pushed him away, trying to get him to restrain himself. When Ida finally entered the room, Tsunagu was sitting facing the wall, while Mari was covered in his jacket. Tsunagu told him it got dicey since he came in so late. Ida humbly apologized, but Mari let him know she was fine, then explained that Tsunagu did his best. If they were talking to him normally, or if she was just next to him, she didn't think that reaction would show up. Tsunagu still feared he might hurt her again, but now he had a little hope he could face this, and decided not to run away yet. He definitely didn't want to do anything dangerous like this again though. Soaking in a bit, Mari wondered if she was the reason Tsunagu kept losing it. It probably wasn't just her voice or attitude. There had to be something in her scent as well. Recalling what happened back then made her feel embarrassed all over again. She needed to make sure not to let her emotions show, because Tsunagu was the one who ended up suffering. She would overhear her parents discussing how more beast folk had started working on the human side. There weren't a lot of places on the human side where beast folk worked, It's almost like they were from a different country. She assumed romantic love was probably the last thing they felt towards humans. Even though they had human emotions, they were born looking beast-like and died the same way. She wondered how it could be accepted if one fell in love with the beast folk boy. Then, she got a text from Tsunagu and Aida, planning to have lunch together tomorrow. Mari contemplated telling Tsunagu goodnight in the DM instead of the group chat, and Yuki barked, seeming motivated for her to go for it. While studying, Tsunagu got a text from Mari, asking that they talk a lot again tomorrow. He wagged his tail happily. It had only been 2 days since he first went outside the walls, but so much has happened to him in that time. He tried to hold back his memories of how cute she was, how surprisingly bold she was, and how drawn he was to her, because in the end, Mari was still a human girl. During lunch break at school, she couldn't join her friends because she already had plans with Aida and Tsunagu, of course. Still, she asked if they wanted to join her, but they didn't see any point to it. Ritsuka then gave Mari 2 muffins to take with her. She encouraged Mari to go for it if that's what she wanted, because she was still curious as to why Mari was interested in Beastful. On the rooftop, Aida mentioned how hard it was to get Tsunagu integrated with the class. He felt people's impressions would change if they saw them with him more often. Hearing this, Tsunagu was relieved that Aida's plan was so simple. That's when Aida suggested pushing him around the school like an election car, but Tsunagu refused. Meanwhile, Mari was distracted by Tsunagu's big mouth. Despite its size, he ate and drank so neatly. He would catch her staring, causing her to become flustered. She told him that it was fun to watch because it looked like he enjoyed his food so much. While he offered to share his food with her, Aida seemed to be going through his own struggles. He suddenly yelled that nothing made sense. He was lost while trying to figure out how to solve factorization. The proficiency tests were coming up, and if he failed anything, he wouldn't be able to play the match to choose their regulars. Tsunagu would help them figure it out with the formula, and both Aida and Mari were shocked when they realized how smart he was. Days later, after writing the tests, students were gathered to look at the results posted on the board, and Tsunagu came on top with the highest score. Mari and Aida also did better, thanks to Tsunagu's tutoring. Mari ran to Ayano, who got second place, to celebrate with her, but Ayano would shove her hand away. Seeing her first position taken from her by Tsunagu, she wanted all beast folk to just disappear. Man, what is she getting in her feelings for? Back on the roof, Aida and Mari complimented Tsunagu for being so smart, but he didn't get what they were talking about. Apparently, he hadn't even seen the exam results. When Ritsuka saw the results, she quickly dashed off to find Ayano. At a younger age, Ayano always got the top scores in tests, but she wanted her mom to read what she had written. However, her mother was only interested in her scores. Ritsuka would then approach Ayano, offering to read what she wrote. Studying and academics were things everyone else did, but Ayano wanted to be praised for something she created out of love. At the classroom, Ritsuka saw Ayano's phone had been left behind. Later on, Mari showed Tsunagu the results, and he seemed indifferent. It was basically everything he had learned in middle school. He got an almost perfect score. Fun fact, this actually happened to me both in middle school and high school. We would get a transfer student from Vietnam, and they would just be like way ahead of us in mathematics. That's what I learned. Primary and secondary school in a lot of Asian countries is way better than American education. Ritsuka ran to Mari, asking if she'd seen Ayano yet, but she hadn't. Mari recalled Ayano was acting weird earlier after seeing the test results. Ritsuka then asked Tsunagu to help track Ayano's scent, since this was partly his fault. Although he could, he didn't understand what he had done wrong. Ritsuka explained that Ayano had wanted to become a writer since she was young, but her parents never acknowledged her dreams, nor supported her. As long as she didn't slack on her studies, got into a good college, and always scored #1 on her tests, she'd still be allowed to write her novels. But now that she came in second place, Ayano wouldn't be able to do what she loved anymore. She was off somewhere, completely crushed, which was why Ritsuka wanted Tsunagu's help in finding her, and so Tsunagu agreed to help. Moments later, Ritsuka ran to the roof, where she found Ayano. She hugged her tightly, letting Ayano know she was scared she would jump off the roof. But Ayano was only here to throw away her notebooks. She believed she could never write again, and didn't see the point in keeping them. Ritsuka complained because she wasn't even done reading them. The torn-up book was on the second floor ledge, and would be hard for them to get it back. Mari wasn't sure how Ayano would feel about retrieving it, but she wanted to read her novel as well. So Tsunagu jumped down to get it, as he was also eager to read it. They managed to put back the torn up pieces in the art room. While reading it, Mari realized it was a mystery novel. Ayano didn't like them reading it without permission, but considering she threw it away, Ritsuka argued it was theirs now. So Mari, Ritsuka, and Tsunagu all read the novel together. Ayano would apologize for saying that beast folk should disappear. She was just mad she couldn't get first place. Plus, her parents were denying her dreams, and she was no match for beast folk in hard work or resolve, especially when their existence was denied by the whole world. Tsunagu told her that he only had the resolve to see his intentions through, and advised that rather than listening to all the noise from those denying her, listening to her friends supporting her would help her way more. His tale touched Mari, startling her. She wondered if this meant she was helping him right now. Ritsuka then expressed how much she loved Ayano's stories. She encouraged her not to give up or throw away her talent, but to keep writing and show her the stories before anyone else. She also offered to help talk to her stubborn parents. Afterwards, Ritsuka thanked Mari and Tsunagu. Mari boasted about how Tsunagu was really amazing, and Ritsuka admitted it, even complimenting how awesome he was. Mari then realized this was how more people would find out how charming Tsunagu was. Ritsuka then started teasing her for freaking out, and also advised her to ask Tsunagu out on a date. Ida and Mari began cleaning up after school, and she told him that Ritsuka and Ayano were both willing to accept Tsunagu now, after what happened. Ida was jealous that they did fine without him, but then she let him know how things would take a turn for the worst if he wasn't with them. As he patted her head, they were both flush in the moment. He quickly apologized, explaining that he did that when praising his little brothers. Ida wanted to say something else, but shoved it aside, telling her not to worry. He then decided to take out the trash and left. Mari recalled he had also hesitated to say something when they were walking back from the gym shed. Outside, he wondered why he was too scared to ask if she liked Tsunagu. Mari then met up with Tsunagu, who was waiting for her so they could walk together and talk. He told her that he had gotten examined for his strange behavior, but the results didn't show anything particularly wrong with him. He was a normal beast person, unaffected by the forbidden moon. He just needed to learn how to control his reaction towards certain scents. Mari apologized for making him suffer, but Tsunagu already expected it would happen when he felt attracted to someone, and he was glad that someone was her. This was bittersweet news for Mari. She didn't want her heart filled with more happiness. Then, she noticed Tsunagu shielding her from the rain. She didn't want him to get wet. Regardless, he liked staying like this, so he pulled her closer. Walking home with her made him really happy, and he wanted to be more helpful to her. As they stared into each other's eyes, Mari tried not to let her emotions overflow. People around started suspecting that Tsunagu was assaulting Mari, but she grabbed his hand and smiled to prove them wrong. Mari was glad they got to walk home together. She wanted them to do it with pride. Her hopeful heart was getting needier and needier, even though she needed to be careful about wishing for their relationship to grow. Mari would ask him out on a date on Saturday, and he agreed, saying all three of them should go. So much for a date. Woof, 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 woof. Oh man. Are they setting up that Ida might like Mari? Well, he gonna lose because Dog Boy is the male lead. Also, I think Ayano's story is one many can relate to. She has a pretty reasonable dream, albeit unstable and more of a gamble as a desired profession, but her parents don't approve. Sounds kinda like being a YouTuber. If I could tell my non-adult self what to do, it would be to hold on to those desires while succeeding in school at the same time. And once high school is done, pursue my dreams in a way that wouldn't require the help of others. That way, you can burden yourself less with the expectations of others, whether that meant working a job and then working on my goal actively after shift, or in my actual case, schooling for a degree on scholarship and devoting as much time as possible to my actual dream. But what do you guys think? Subscribe for more content. But for now, watch this next video. It's me, ComfyTea. I'll see you all in the next one.